Hello everyone, my name is Yanis Iqbal and you are watching my podcast Revolution is on the Horizon. This is the first episode of the podcast and I will be talking mainly about Venezuela, or more precisely US imperialism and the gains or achievements of the Bolivarian Revolution. So let's start. Venezuela's Great Patriotic Pole, an alliance of revolutionary and progressive forces led by the governing United Socialist Party of Venezuela, emerged triumphant from the legislative elections held on December 6, 2020, obtaining 69% of the total votes. The PSUV and its allies will now hold 253 of the 277 seats of the parliament. 107 political parties, of which 90% belonged to the opposition, had registered for the election with more than 14,000 candidates, three times more than in 2015, had registered, and the electoral process was perfectly legitimate and it was supervised by a reconstituted National Electoral Council CNE and with the expansion of proportional representation, a political fact of utmost importance. Peaceful National Assembly elections were the product of a process of dialogue and national reconciliation promoted by President Nicolas Maduro, who reiterated calls to sectors of the Venezuelan opposition to find democratic ways to resolve their political differences. In August 2020, as part of the National Dialogue for Peace, he had granted presidential pardon to 110 citizens, some of them repeat offenders in various crimes, including an assassination attempt against the president himself. Taking into account the context in which the elections occurred, they express an extremely significant advance in the global battle against imperialism. Two factors account for the continued hegemony of socialist forces in Venezuela: the Bolivarian Revolution and US imperialism. Ever since Hugo Chavez rose to power in 1999, Venezuela has exerted greater control over its vast oil resources, expropriated various businesses, and nationalized some industries, and sought to diversify the country's economic relations away from the US. On all three counts, the Venezuelan government succeeded. It received more revenue from oil ventures, took over many businesses and industries, and established stronger relations with countries in the global south. The policies implemented by the Chavista administration were singularly motivated by desire to implement socialism. To work towards this comprehensive goal, Chavez formulated the concept of the elementary triangle of socialism. Serving as the basic blueprint of everyday actions, this triangle is composed of social production organized by workers, social ownership of the means of production, and focus upon satisfying social needs. Firstly, social production organized by workers allows them to develop their capacities by fusing thinking and doing in such a way as to produce not only commodities but also to regenerate themselves as self conscious producers. Secondly, social ownership of the means of production ensures that production is directed to the liberation of all rather than the grotesque enrichment of the few. Thirdly, satisfaction of social needs is the essential goal of productive activity because it replaces the logic of profit maximization with the logic of collective solidarity. Although contradictions remained in the socio-economic arrangements created by Chavez, Venezuela did guarantee their citizens some minimal standard of economic survival and security, including guaranteed education, employment, housing, and medical assistance. Comprehensive in scope and ambitious in design, progressive reforms initiated by the Bolivarian Revolution intended to achieve a variety of objectives, ensuring functional and numerical literacy among adults, supporting high school dropouts, and increasing access to post secondary training, improving access to high quality, nutritious, safe, and organic food, and providing free community health care, hospital services, and preventive resources. Chavez's new developmental and state driven plan was coupled with a communal socialist architecture tasked with the facilitation of self governance through participatory forums. Communal councils which are groupings of 200 to 400 families involved in self-governance projects in densely populated urban areas, and 50 to 100 families in rural areas were established in 2006, followed by the creation of communes, that is, self-governing units which aggregated smaller existing units in 2010. There are more than 45,000 communal councils. Many have been joined together into larger communes, of which there are more than 1,500. The communal councils are brought together with social property enterprises, which are essentially socialized units of production. So now moving on to US imperialism. At a time when USA was regulating the global capitalist order through its post-World War II institutions of unipolar dominance, a program like Chavismo unsettled the composure of the rent-seeking oligarchy and placed Venezuela at the epicenter of the American strategy for continental domination. The outstanding oil wealth of Venezuelan territory is complemented by privileged geographic position that links the Greater Caribbean to the Amazon basin, in addition to its strategic proximity to the Panama Canal. Nothing could be more appealing for a profit-hungry bourgeois. These same advantages nurtured a cozy and comfortable oligarchy that fed parasitically off the oil wealth. Avid for brutal dominance under the wing of Washington, this oligarchy seeks to impose its will over popular classes revolutionized by Chavez's socialist movement. Initially, the US relied heavily upon political tactics to destabilize the Venezuelan government and to consolidate right-wing groups within the country. America's so-called democracy-promoting agencies spearheaded this anti-Chavista offensive, including United States Agency for International Development (USAID), the National Endowment for Democracy (NED), and its associated groups including the International Republican Institute (IRI), the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs (NDI), Center for International Private Enterprise (CIPE), and the Solidarity Center. Before Chavez took office, the NED maintained little presence in the country. Following his election, however, the George W. Bush administration substantially increased funding for the organization, and the NDI established a field office in the country. Though the IRI formally worked with some youth organizations, both NDI and IRI directed their efforts towards strengthening the capacities of right-wing political parties, thus contributing to the formation of an internal counter-revolutionary movement. In April 2002, the US imperialists cooperated with the Venezuelan oligarchy in a failed coup attempt against Socialist President Hugo Chavez. The 48-hour President Pedro Carmona, a national business leader, had promptly issued a decree doing away with 49 pieces of social legislation, suspending the Supreme Court, the Chavez National Assembly, dismissing governors, etc. Chavez soon returned, following a powerful struggle waged by working class citizens and soldiers who were loyal to him. In the post coup period, the opposition initially paralyzed the economy with a strike and thereafter sought to remove Chavez through a recall referendum. The referendum occurred, but Chavez prevailed and later won the 2006 presidential elections. The recall referendum in 2006 presidential elections in Venezuela weren't entirely free from imperialist influence. During those times, strategized attempts were made by USA to perforate Chavez's socialist support base. Beginning with Maduro's election to presidency, USA's imperialist onslaught intensified, with sanctions occupying the center stage. In January of 2019, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo appointed Elliot Abrams to the post of special envoy to Venezuela, signaling the escalation of US bellicosity towards that country. It is important to note that Abrams is an unapologetic war criminal and a card-carrying hawk, having assumed the post of then-President Ronald Reagan's Assistant Secretary of State for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs just one day after the infamous 1981 massacre of more than 1,000 people in a Salvadoran village by US trained and funded battalions. He has also praised Guatemalan dictator Efraín Reyes Montt for having brought considerable progress in the field of human rights. This being said in the context of a murderous war that killed over 200,000 Guatemalans, with the state found to be responsible for more than 90% of the killings. Considering his grisly credentials as a full-blooded imperialist, it is no surprise that he was chosen to lead the US aggression against Venezuela. With the help of sanctions, USA placed prohibitions on every kind of transactions: bonds, loans, letters of credit, invoices or discount notes and commercial papers. Restrictions were also placed on the activities of the Central Bank of Venezuela (BCV) and the state-owned enterprise Petroleum of Venezuela (PDVSA), leading to a financially toxified environment unconducive to a credit-thirsty oil industry. The USA has also blacklisted vessel owners, shipping operators, and threatened to sanction any tanker facilitating Venezuela's operations. Due to these measures, shipping firms are avoiding Venezuela, making it difficult to hire tankers to load and export crude. Venezuela's state-owned company PDVSA is unable to use its own tankers because sanctions have left them lacking the certification needed to navigate international waters. By crippling Venezuela's oil production capacity, the US also hopes to succeed in raising global oil prices, thus opening up demand for its own producers and maintaining the boom in US oil production. US sanctions have resulted in 40,000 deaths in 2017 to 18 alone. Venezuela's vice president for planning, Ricardo Menendez, has said the country has lost 38 billion US dollar over 3 years because of US sanctions. In total, the country has lost 169 US billion dollars as a result of the sanctions regime. With that 169 billion dollars, Venezuela could have paid its 110 billion debt, instituted redistributive measures, or imported food and medicines for approximately 45 years. USA's animosity for Maduro's government originated in 2014 during Barack Obama's presidency. In December 2014, the US Congress passed the Venezuela Defense of Human Rights and Civil Society Act of 2014, which imposed sanctions against individuals whom the president identified as guilty of committing human rights abuses. This act gave full leeway to the president to arbitrarily block the assets of those individuals whom he considered as unfit for America-approved democratic accolades. On 8 March 2015, Barack Obama gave another body blow to Venezuela through an executive order which presented Venezuela as an, quote, unusual and extraordinary threat to national security, unquote. The presentation of Venezuela as a national security threat was grotesquely false because the ulterior motive was to access the large oil reserves of Venezuela, and the US state wanted to achieve this through its callous embargoes and destructive sanctions. Along with the American economic war, Venezuela also had to withstand a deliberate depression in oil prices caused by US's ally Saudi Arabia. Summarizing the story of US imperialism in Venezuela, we can say that it is motivated by two factors. Firstly, the US wants to establish complete control over a country which the Central Intelligence Agency CIA defined as, quote, extraordinarily wealthy, unquote, in terms of its natural resources. Venezuela has rich resources, of which petroleum is the most important for Venezuelans, accounting for 99% of the country's export earnings. The US has constantly targeted Venezuela's large, lucrative oil reserves, and the current war of economic sabotage, media propaganda, and not to forget military coup against the country is a manifestation of US petro-imperialism. Secondly, by toppling Maduro's socialist administration, the US would gain the ability to abruptly halt the construction of an independent foreign policy, restore US dominance, prevent the diversification of trading partners, and privatize firms that have been partly or wholly nationalized by successive Chavista administrations. In a nutshell, USA will be able to eliminate the powerful force of socialist ideology and realign Venezuela to the principles of capitalism if it succeeds in overthrowing Maduro's government. To conclude this podcast episode, the political climate engendered by the Bolivarian Revolution and the suffering inflicted by opposition-backed imperialist policies have converged to increase the popularity of Chavismo. While the former served the people and challenged relations of dominance, the latter halted the process of change and visibly aimed at snatching away the dignity enjoyed by Venezuelans thanks due to the Bolivarian Revolution. Such a polarized electoral arena made the choice easy for voters. Select a party which struggles in conjunction with the people for better lives and does not abet economic terrorism. The victory of the PSUV is an indication of the strength of Venezuelans' heroic struggle against imperialism.